like the one is done there. But sometimes these platforms will have double purposes, like you can see an altar or a little shrine in front of the platforms, which sometimes incense burners or representations of personage of this city that were very important. Like if you see here, those are remains of a foot of who probably was a great astronomer or a great mathematician of the site. So this is one of the ways our ancestors used to show respect and kept on showing honor to this personage, you know, having his sculpture, come ask for advices, you know, and also, you know, showing everybody that he was a very important personage of the site. So a lot of these structures will be used with sometimes double purposes. You can see the round temple back there, that round temple, that's what we know as Mayan observatories. There is a similar structure that were found on Chichen Itza, but the one at Chichen Itza had a spiral stair. It has a spiral stair in the inside.
Does this one have just a...
It has just like a column. But according with some of the people that was working here on the reconstruction, part of this was very eroded, very destroyed. There was evidence of a work here. You know? A lot of the temples were burned, were destroyed. They found a lot of people at the same place where they died. So this had theories, this structure, that it was probably an altar. It has so far 25 positions to study and alienate constellations on the sky. Using other temples, we got around like the corner of that tall temple we got on the back on the west part of the door. You see the temple, it has 4 doors allineated to the 4 cardinal points. So from those sections you can divide, you know, you can divide the horizon in 4 different sections and study those sections on the sky, sometimes according to calendarical days, you know, of the year, but most of the times using the other structures we got around, and register and alienate the position of these constellations. As I was telling you, the one it was found on Chichen Itza, they find out that it was to follow the cycle of the planet Venus from the niche they had on the top of the temple. Probably something similar that they had here, but because of the reconstruction, sometimes some of the pieces cannot be set on the place they were before. But look, some of the characteristics of Mayapan and the post-classic period on the Mayan civilization was the construction or the manufacture of incense burners. That was like a fashion on that period. These are some of those incense burners that were used to offer smoke offerings to the gods, right? They were burning an incense that was called copal. It's an incense we can use nowadays. For us, symbolize the blood of the tree as the essence of life, as an offering to the gods. But this is also a substance that purifies the ambience. You know? It makes that the rhythm of your heart slow down. So it's something that they were burning a lot in here, you know. So people, I told you, this was a cosmopolitan place. There were people coming from all over to import things, you know, and also to bring things we don't have on this area. So everybody was able to have a talk, you know, and trade. So it was part of the characteristics of the site, you know, to have these incense burners split. And what is interesting, that we found burners, incense burners manufactured in Mayapan in different areas of Anahuac or Mesoamerica, split all over. So there was like a globalization on that time of the beliefs, because we found idols that they have a big worship here in the Mayan area, Central Mexico, the Pacific, North Mexico, and same with the idols from those areas that were brought here. Characteristics that were similar on their gods and their idols too, that we start to show and represent in this Mayan area. So there was like a influence, you know, of all over Mesoamerica, not only from that people from Central and the Pacific to here, but also from the Mayan area to those areas. So see, a lot of contact. Lots of these cities were interconnected by a web of trails. Maya's people were some of the first civilizations developing highways. There was not pull animals, so we were not using the wheel. They had the idea. We found small representations of what it probably was toys with wheels that they were probably pulling. The orography and not having pull animals is not very helping, you know. It's not very helpful to use the wheel. So they were traveling through these sakbes, we call them sakbes, that were elevated trails with a fine plaster of stucco, like the stucco plaster we saw on the top of that structure. So the trails were white. They were using the moon, the light of the moon, to illuminate the trail and travel all these long distances. Most of the times to import different things, you know, like
Hey you. Where's your shoe at? Where's your shoe at?
No.
No.
Where's your shoe? Where's your shoe? You lost it?
Mommy's getting it.
I found an iguana.
You saw
See?
iguana?
Yeah, Mira, I'm gonna show you. We're gonna go to a cave now, and there is most of the times we get to see the huge one that live there. You know, there is a
Wow.
big iguana there. Big ones. Those were very symbolic and important houses. The design, the characteristics on the house, and the design it has, it was very symbolic for the Mayan people. But all these houses were losing that value when conquistadors arrived, because most of these materials are linked to poverty. Wood, mud, grass, you know,
Mm-hmm.
poor materials. So they start losing this value and they start being considered chozas. But we can see houses built on top of these platforms, as I was telling you, and also designs or little carved stone representing these homes to decorate or ornamentate beautiful temples, you know. So they were
Okay.
very important for us, very important. But come this way, I'm gonna show you the mask of the most venerated god on the Mayan civilization, the god of the water, the rain god. Chag.
Oh wow.
Chag means that rainwater, life,
Rainwater. Okay.
fertility, you know, all what involves that concept of water.
Wow.
So this is
Wow.
what they were. They were the gods here, you know, for the Mayan people. The rain, the sun, the moon, the winds.
Mhm.
This is how Maya people was representing their gods. If you look the characteristics this masks have, you can see symbols on the corners, symbols that for some archaeologists represent on their way to, on their conception, on their interpretation, the spirit, the soul. But for many people, it represents the winds. The position of this peninsula in between the tropics allowed us to see the sun walking on the horizon, changing its position every 91
Okay.
days and reaching its farther position on these corners, northwest, northeast, southwest, and southeast. So for us, those happen during the change of the seasons, equinoxes, solstices. So for Maya people, those were other corners, other
Right there.
dimensions where life comes from, where there
Ah.
are winds blowing that are bringing life, but not only life and rain, also bad things, diseases, wars. So
Mhm.
even nowadays we got this wind, Chichen Itza, northwest corner. When it's blowing, all grandmas go out and tell children that play inside, because they can get
Oh.
sick. This is a
Yeah.
bad wind, you know, that make kids get sick.
Okay.
So grandmas, oh, come and play
Come
inside.
inside.
Still, we have part of those beliefs, you know. So
Yeah.
these can be representing those corners, those four cardinal points, those areas where these winds are blowing and are bringing all this. We have carved teeth. It was part of those stereotypes of beauty Maya people have before. They used to carve their teeth and adorn their teeth with beautiful pieces of turquoise, jade, obsidian. But here it can be representing the place where these gods live. Caves, cenotes, you know, stalactites,
Okay,
stalagmites.
yeah.
It's linked to that, right? Rain as well. This hooked nose that, according for many people, it's very similar to a glyph that is linked to the thunder and lightning. But sometimes this nose is also pointing down, so it's not all the time on this position. So other interpretation we have been providing, it's when it's up, asking for rain, and when it's pointing down,
Okay.
in a way to appreciation, thanks, or
Mhm.
asking to something grow from the soil.
Okay.
So those are some of the interpretations that people have been providing to this representation. But if we go all over Mexico, all over Mesoamerica, and start watching all the representations that all these ancient civilizations have about their rain gods, they are very similar. We have Tlaloc in central Mexico that has very similar characteristics, even on the nose. We have representations of Tlaloc in Mayan cities. So there were, you know, similar conceptions they have, or similar ways to represent their gods or their idols of the rain or the water. Even on the Pacific side, you know, Cosijo, that is a bat, had very similar characteristics.
Okay.
So it's very, very common to see these representations. Rain was important, you know.
Mhm.
Agriculture was the basis of the activities in here. That's how they could survive and develop all these huge and
Yeah.
sophisticated cities. So with no rain, it's difficult to produce all these,
Yeah.
fields and survive. But that's why we got this.
Wow.
This got here. It was important, to pray for rain. And even nowadays, a lot of people depend for rain for their agriculture activities. We'll be protecting them because they are making this sound when somebody is approaching. You hear? It's a beautiful bird. It has two feathers. Two feathers. When you see me flying out, it looks beautiful. These are avocado trees. Avocado trees, the local avocado we consume.
Oh, avocado
These
tree.
trees, yeah.
Oh wow.
But it's still growing. It's still blooming.
Yeah.
So August is the season where we can pick some of those. Look, this is a
Wow.
cave. One of those 23 cenotes and caves that were found into the Mayapan, inside the Mayapan wall. Eh, Clearly, it was a ceremonial
Oh, look, there's
place, a religious place.
See it, Dylan.
Yeah, they wanna. And according to other writing evidence, it was left according to the people that sells tickets at the entrance. This was an escape road. It takes you, if you explore 4 kilometers deep inside, to the next town, to Tequit.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was used probably as an escape road during the time of the war of Mayapan. Actually, most of the caves and cenotes of the state were used as shelters and places to hide during the time of the war I was telling you,
Mhm.
against the hacienda system, because the war. So they were using a lot of these caves and cenotes as
Wow.
shelters, to protect their people and hide during the time of all these wars. So it was the same use they were providing to this, but we can see it that is in a
I know.
sacred area.
Yeah.
So
one right here
the
too.
temple that was also built next to it, there were many pieces found in here, plus many others that were probably taken during the time many explorers were coming,
Yeah.
and the federal institution, the INA, was taking the control of this site. A lot of pieces were stolen,
Mhm.
but this is one of those areas where we could find lots of good information about Mayapan. Do you need any time for to do video? I mean, like free time?